Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Psalm 121, the psalmist begins with a very intriguing question. He says, I will lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where shall my help come? And so the psalmist is saying, I'm looking up to these mountains that are a symbol of stability, of security, and things along those lines. And posing this question, where is my help going to come from? The psalmist in this particular situation needed some help. And he's considering where it could be that his help would come from. And he answers the question in verse 2, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And who can help you better than the very person who created all things, who created heaven and earth? And he could even throw in those mountains in connection to that. Maybe he's even considering those mountains as he talks about this God who would create heaven and earth and all of these things. And then he goes on to describe God as a guardian, as a shelter, and then as a protector. He's a guardian, as stated in verses 3 and 4. He says, he will not allow your foot to slip. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. And the psalmist recognized that God is his help because God is his guardian. Much like a guardian, maybe over a child, who watches over the child, make sure the child doesn't fall down, doesn't slip, doesn't hurt themselves. That's how the psalmist pictures God, as being one who guards his soul, not one who is distant, detached, uninterested in his life, but one who is keeping him and keeping watch over him. And that's true of us as well. As we consider life, oftentimes we might be under the impression that we're kind of on our own, especially during those hard times, and we just try to get through them on our own. Maybe we lift up some prayers, but we feel like God is detached from our situation. We need to remember that God is our guardian. He's watching over our souls, and he's watching over us all the time. He neither slumbers nor sleeps in his watch over us. But the psalmist also recognized that God was his shelter. He says in verse 5, the Lord is your keeper, the Lord is your shade on your right hand. Verse 6, the sun will not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. And so he's saying he's your shelter. He's going to protect you both from the heat of the sun during the day, and then also the moon by night. You won't become affected by the sun or the moon. And some have suggested that perhaps the sun represents adversity, difficulty, things like that. And then the moon would represent the difficulty in dark times, or those dark moments in our lives that come from time to time. But in either case, and in all situations, the Lord is a shelter. And that's important for us to remember as well. Everything that happens to us is filtered through our relationship with God. Just like you might have a shelter over you, the sun might be shining, but that shelter is like a filter from the sun. It's also as a filter of the moon, and allows that to not have as great of an effect on you as it normally would. And the same thing is true with our relationship with God. As we draw close to the Lord, as we're abiding in the presence of God, he becomes a filter that shields us from the full effects of the hardships that we come across. Not that we don't still feel the effects of those things, but because we're observing these things or experiencing these things through the filter of our relationship with God, he becomes for us a shelter, a shelter in that way. But then he's also a protector. Verse 7, the Lord will protect you from all evil. He will keep your soul. And this reminds me of the Lord's Prayer, where he says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And God is one who can protect us from all evil. We need to trust that the Lord will protect us from all evil. That the Lord will watch over our soul, that he will not allow the tempter, the accuser, Satan, the spiritual forces of darkness to overwhelm us and to overtake us. But insofar as we trust him and we continue to have a heart for the Lord, he can protect us and guard our lives in that way. and we can rest in the fact that the Lord will protect us from those types of things. And so this psalm ought to encourage us as we face each day. We all know that we need help, just as the psalmist need help. And it's a comfort to know that we have a God who is not distant, who is not detached, but is our guardian, our shelter, and then also our protector. And that should give us confidence to meet each day, knowing that we can make it through whatever this day might hold for us, with our God by our side, our God overshadowing us, and our God going before us. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.